Hey everyone, welcome back to Empire Secrets. I'm your host, Mariana Henninger, and I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to share something that I realized that I've accumulated over the last few years of doing business. It's not something I brought into entrepreneurship. I literally learned this because I needed to, but also because I was just in the rooms where this was being talked about or just happened. One of these tips I happened to hear on the radio. And these are all tips that they're really practical. I hate the word tips. These are really practical tactics and strategies that you can use if you ever feel like you're not confident in yourself. If you ever feel imposter syndrome, if you feel like, why should I be doing this? Or there's somebody that's so much better than me at this and they're selling their program, they're selling their course. So why would anybody buy from me? And if you know me, you know that the answer to why somebody would buy from you is because you're you and nobody else is you. And that is the secret sauce of your business. So I want you to know that first and foremost. But sometimes, whether that is questioning why people would buy from us or just, do I have what it takes? Do I have an offer that people actually want? Am I the right person for this? Any sort of imposter syndrome thoughts or their ugly cousins that can come into your mind. I wanted to share with you three things that I've learned over the last couple of years that will help you deal with that. And it all started, or one of the tips that I want to share with you started when I was in a room in an event put together by Entreprenista, and the head of sales from Bill.com was there. Her name is Stephanie Valentini, and she was speaking, and I don't know if somebody had asked a question about how she deals with this. I think it was like, how do you deal with imposter syndrome? She is like one of the most confident people I've met, so it was surprising to me that she had a tip for this, but her tip was kind of taught to her by somebody else. And anyway, I wanted to share that with you. So that's number one tip, and I'm going to share the other two. Before I dive in, I do want to tell you a really vulnerable story. I've never shared this story before. I decided to share it this week in one or two groups that I'm in. And so many people stopped and thanked me for sharing this story. And I think it's just helpful to know that people go through all sorts of things that you might not know about. Entrepreneurship is really stinking hard. And so it's helpful to hear the hardship stories, right? And I don't feel like I share a ton of hardship stories. So I wanted to share this one here on the podcast as well. And it goes back to probably, I'm pretty sure this was the first Christmas of my business, kind of like, the 12-month mark, maybe around there, maybe a little less. Or actually, no, I have to actually stop and think which one this was. This was a few years ago. And my business is only a few years old. So I was miserable. It was around Christmas time. Everything was beautiful and happy, and everyone around me was joyous. And there was a lot of, Hallmark Christmas movies playing everywhere. And I was a nervous wreck. I had so much anxiety. I'd basically burned through nearly six figures of my 401k. So when I left NBC, I cashed out my 401k. I knew this was going to be the starter money for my business, and I wanted to go all in. I did not want to go back into the corporate world. The stock market was really terrible that year, and I knew it would come back up, but I wanted to have cash in hand for my business, and I didn't want to have any other distractions. I also knew, I sold from day one, so that wasn't, something where I was like, I'm going to build this thing for a year and then sell it. But I knew I needed the extra cash. So I cashed out my 401k. Big decision to do that. And by the end of that year, I had spent so much in like some coaching, I had spent in travel and conferences, I had spent in marketing, setting up my business, hiring costs, all of that. And I was so nervous. I was miserable. My sales just hadn't caught up at that point. And all I could do was look at the bank account and see those numbers and see what they weren't anymore. Right? Those numbers used to be great numbers when I started, and now they were pretty terrible numbers. And I was waking up at 3 in the morning, full of anxiety. And luckily, so I don't want to tell the whole story of my business, but obviously things picked up. I kept going. I had so much consistency sort of built in me. Consistency, delayed gratification. I knew I was going to find a way. And in some aspects, I'm still testing and tweaking and, positioning my offer in the best way because this is something that's new to the market. But I just wanted to share that. And I wanted to share that the grit that you need in entrepreneurship pays off. You need to have that instilled in your soul so that in your moments where you are also waking up at 3 in the morning and maybe crying yourself to sleep and really just sad and looking at what isn't working, look instead at what you do have and what is working and keep pushing forward, keep doing the work. It will pay off. Keep getting the advice and the help and taking the right steps. So I hope this is helpful for somebody who needed to hear it. A lot of people, when I shared this in a post, responded and said, I really needed to hear this. So thank you. So I'm going to move on to the three sort of strategies that you can borrow and use to fight against imposter syndrome. And the bridge that I wanted to create between those two seemingly, opposite things, if you will, or just like, well, they could be very related, but they weren't, because even in those moments where I was at my lowest of lows, in fact, the reason I knew that was because I looked for jobs on LinkedIn and I had promised myself I wasn't going to do that. I maybe did it like one afternoon, but that was my lowest of lows because I knew the ships were burned. I knew I wasn't looking for going back to corporate in any way, going back to working for somebody else. I wanted, like, I believe in my business so much. So the idea of like having to get a job just for the money killed me. And so even with that, even in that lowest of low, I had no thought that I couldn't do this. It was just a matter of like how. It was just a matter of figuring it out and continuing to figure it out. But I know that a lot of people do struggle with those thoughts. And so that's what this episode's about. Let's dive right in. The first strategy, again from Stephanie Valenti, from Bill.com, is this idea that your brain has a really hard time manifesting or like crystallizing thoughts that aren't true. And what that means is that if you ever try to write something false, obviously we're not talking about like fiction story, we're talking about something that's inherently untrue. It's really hard to do that. And because your brain is really fights against you. And so the strategy here is this: when you have that voice in your head telling you that you can't do it, or who are you to try this, and why should it work for you, and right, all of these thoughts that question your ability to do something, try to write them down. Just force yourself to grab a piece of paper and a pen. It can't be typed, it has to be a pen, and write that thought down. Try, because most of the time what's going to happen is you're either going to feel immediately ridiculous the moment that you see these words. You're like, that's not true. Or you're actually going to even stop yourself from writing them. So that's a great way. In fact, so when I shared this, one of the gals who commented on my post, she said, I caught my daughter ripping up a piece of paper the other day, and I asked her, why are you ripping that piece of paper up? And she said, Mom, I wrote something. What did she say? Hold on. Let me grab it super quick. Oh, I can't find it now. Maybe it was on, I think it was on LinkedIn, and I'm in the other group that I posted this. But anyway, so she said something along the lines of, I wrote something that was false about myself and I want it to be gone. So I ripped it up. So I thought that was amazing that her daughter had done this exercise. All right. So strategy number 2, the third one is my favorite, by the way. So strategy number 2 is that you can give the voice in your head a name. And I heard this one on the radio. It was this gal, the name that she gave her voice was Becky. And so every time she heard a limiting belief coming out of her head, she called it Becky and she said, Becky, there you are. Just go away already. Just shut up, Becky. Go away. Are you done? So you can call your voice whatever you want. You can call it Roger, you can call it Kevin, you can call it, like whatever. You can make up a name, but call it something. And that helps you separate that voice from your own identity. You can then listen to that voice as an external voice versus an internal voice. And you can tell that voice to go away, to shut up, stop bothering you, right? Identify that voice, give it a name, and tell it to go away. Just separate yourself from that voice because that voice is actually not you. All right. So, strategy number 3 that I wanted to share with you is my favorite one because it's especially helpful for women. And, I'm not an expert in gender studies, but anecdotally, through my own life experience, I see women around me, and a lot of us struggle with confidence. Scientifically, it's been proven that women tend to only acknowledge the accolades, or if they even do that, right? If they're ready to really own their experience and their power, it's typically the power that they are absolutely sure that they have. And so a lot of times you'll see women applying for jobs that they are overqualified for versus underqualified for. And a lot of men are the opposite, where they apply for jobs that they're underqualified for because they have that confidence that they will be able to do the job, even though they've never done it before. And women tend to do the opposite. They look for jobs where I know exactly how to do all these things. So therefore, I'm going to apply for that job. And so this idea that typically men have the willpower, the vision, the strength and the power to go above and beyond what is permitted to them, right? What's allowed them. And, I'm thinking of Leo DiCaprio in The Wolf of Wall Street, right? We're talking about like really big male egos. And yes, there are plenty of female examples. For me, it helps to picture a male, and you can just picture whoever you want. And so the third strategy is, what would a man do? What would a man do in this case, right? Would they be asking for permission? Would they be thinking these stupid thoughts and keep themselves from moving forward anyway, right? Would a man deter himself? Would a man waste any time? And when I say a man, obviously there are men of all types, but I'm thinking Leo in Wolf of Wall Street. Like, would Leo keep himself from moving forward because of these stupid thoughts? The answer is no. The answer is no, they wouldn't. And so it helps me to immediately snap out of that thinking and be like, why am I not doing it anyway? And whoever is that role model that can help you snap out of that limitful thinking, the limiting thoughts, use that role model as inspiration when you have those thoughts and just break free from them. Stop wasting time. And that's, to me, that's the biggest motivator, is that I don't want to waste time with thoughts that hold me back. So if I'm being super honest, I might not have imposter syndrome, but I do have fear every once in a while. Not super common, thankfully, for me. I know that's not the case for everyone, but I do have fear sometimes. And one thing that's recent, that's really coming up for me right now as I'm building out some new funnels, which I'm super excited about, is this fear of running ads, and the idea that like I'm about to spend a ton of money, and if my funnel hasn't been proven, and if I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing, and do I spend money getting somebody else to either do it for me or walk me through everything, make sure everything is perfect? Like, what should I be doing? And it's keeping me a little bit, but I've also decided to name that fear and be like, get out of here. I'm going to push through anyway. I am Leo. I am pushing forward and I'm doing it. So, yeah, again, it can be an imposter syndrome, or it can be a fear that you might not even diagnose originally, and it's just kind of percolating in the back of your head. So I wanted to share that. Hopefully that's helpful for you. I do want to plant the seed before I let you go today that I'm working on a really amazing, it's going to be so good, really amazing offer for Black Friday. And it's going to be a whole week of deals. And so I have two things. First of all, I wanted to let you know that's coming up. Because if you have been wanting to be in my universe, this will be the absolute best time to dive in. If you wanted to work together, if you wanted to get moving on your positioning, on your pre-selling, doing all of our trust acceleration system with our brand video in our program, then this will be the very best time to jump in. So coming up soon, I'm actually going to give folks a little bit of a head start if they want to jump in first. There's going to be even more incentive for the early birds, but that is coming up. So in addition to letting you know about that, I also wanted to let you know that as a business owner, I have an opportunity to mastermind with me and a few other people who are working on their Black Friday deals. And in order to participate, there is a program that you have to buy because we're all following the same program. It's not my program, but it is somebody that I really, really admire who has a fantastic program that she's run for several years now, and it gets amazing results. So I am so excited that this year I'm giving myself the bandwidth to work on Black Friday. I am not only giving myself the bandwidth, I am doing it in style, in luxury. And what that means is I'm going to have everything done before the end of October, or by the end of October, really. That is going to be amazing. Going into, like, imagine going into November with all of your Black Friday already prepped and done and orchestrated and automated, all of it. So I'm super excited about that. We have a Q&A call today when this episode drops on Thursday. But aside from that, the offer is if you buy this program with my code, with my affiliate partner link, then you get to join me in a WhatsApp group with a bunch of other ladies who are all working on, I would say mostly ladies. There might be a couple men in there. We're all working on our Black Friday deals week. And I would love to have you. So if you want to join, I will put the link in the show notes as well. But you can go to brandmagnetic.com/BFIAB. brandmagnetic.com/BF for Black Friday, IB. BFIAB stands for Black Friday in a Box, and grab that program. It's now on early bird sale. So the price will more than triple, I think, at the end of the month. So make sure to grab it now. Also, because then you can work on it together with me, together with other folks, and going into November as well. All right, everyone. I hope this was a helpful episode for you. If you've ever struggled with imposter syndrome, I would love to hear from you. Let me know what your takeaway is. Let me know which of these strategies you're going to keep in mind for next time you have these awful, awful voices telling you you're not deserving and you can't do something. Absolutely not. There's no place in my world for that. So let me know. Just reach out to me on Instagram at brandmagnetic. And I'm so excited, you guys. I'm building out a completely new funnel. I have a new tool that I'm going to tell you about next week because it's not quite ready yet to be launched, but I'm going to tease you on it because this tool has gotten such phenomenal feedback. And I'm just finalizing the name for the tool. So super excited. I'm going to start running ads to that tool. It's going to be crazy, crazy cheap. It's going to be like an absolute no-brainer to jump on it because it's worth so much more than what I'm going to be charging for it. And it's going to be my SLO funnel, my self-liquidating offer funnel, which means I am going to not lose any money to get more people into my world and into my email list, and really more people that are more confident in selling their offers, knowing what makes them different, knowing why people should trust them, and being able to communicate that so that people feel that instant trust the moment they meet them. So with that said, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. And I can't wait to see you next week on the next episode of Empire Secrets. My last request for you is if this episode helps you, share it with a friend. Please send them this link, have them listen to this episode. And if you are listening to this episode around Black Friday and you want to join me, again, leave that link in the comments. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your week, and ta-ta for now. Bye.